Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Schlage number 34-204. This is a pack of 100 number 2 master pins. When you buy one, you're buying a pack of 100 of these master pins. It's a pin tumbler. They're called split wafer or master or pin. The point of the matter is it's a number 2 master, is what we would call it. I have one removed from the packaging here, and being a 15 thousandths of an inch increment system by Schlage, this is a number 2, so that means it's 30 thousandths thick, 0.030. Going to be all but impossible to really see on the camera. Get a little bit of focus out of it there, and you can tell, hopefully, that the pin itself is not flat. It's crowned, actually. And the important part is that it's crowned exactly correctly for Schlage systems. What I mean by that is Schlage has an effective plug diameter of 0.5 inch. You're putting a pin that, if it was square, wouldn't work very well because it's going into a round housing. So that exact radius and the treatment to the top of the pin is completely compatible with Schlage products. There is a link below this video to a document called Key Bitting Specifications, and that bottom half of that page is handy because it will give you the part number of all of the other master pins from Schlage. 2 is incredibly common. Schlage is not going to produce a pin shorter than a 2, thinner than a 2 in a master because it will be too thin to work correctly. Based on what I've been taught, when you get to about 0.023 thick, that's when you can count on cylinders to fail because the wafers are too thin. They will get jammed and logged between the cylinder housing and the plug inside of it. So, I've successfully used 0.027 without trouble, and that makes sense based on the science, the way I was taught it. But getting below a 30 thousandths is just something to be avoided at all costs. With that one safety margin of 0.27. You won't get 0.27 from Schlage, like I said. You would have to rely on a universal kit like that, but we'll talk more about that in a moment. That chart of the master pins is handy. We'll give you the part numbers. What's interesting, that 15 thousandths increment I mentioned earlier, you'll notice that the difference between a 3 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 is 15 thousandths. That would be called a 2-step system. There are 10 depths in a Schlage system, and you can step them every 2 steps, and that will prevent you from getting too close from one pin to the next, meaning you wouldn't have a 1 and a 0 in successive key changes in the same cylinder. They're just simply too close to work correctly when you're master pinning stuff. The chart will also give you bottom pin part numbers, top pins as well. Now, top pins need to be explained a little bit, in the sense that you can have 3 different top pins or driver pins. There's a concept called plug total or stack height or pin stack height. That's how many bottom pins, that is the pin stack, is the bottom pin, plus any and all master pins that are in the chamber. That number will never be less than 1 and will never be greater than 9. It's between 0 and 9. And you'll use a top pin based on your total pin stack. So you know that you're dealing with a 2 master. That means that you could possibly use any of those 3 different sizes of top pins depending on your bottom pin or other master pins as well. So if you were just in that particular chamber, you had a bottom and a master, and let's say that was a number 5 bottom pin plus a 2 master is 7. That's your stack height. You can see that you'd be at a number 3 top or driver pin. Okay, so that's why that's important. Lots of data up above there. That is a dimensional drawing that would really act as a depth and spacing chart. A tremendous amount of very, very important data is above there. And the only thing that they don't mention, I think, is the effective plug diameter of 0.5 inch. If you study the root depth that's there, which is the dimension from the root or the bottom of the key blank to the bottom of the cut, if you put a caliper on it, and you added that, if you deducted that from your effective plug diameter of 0.5 inch, you'll come up with your bottom pin size. Okay, those two are directly related. However, that technical drawing helps illustrate why it's important to use original equipment when you can. All of the dimensions on there are utterly crucial. It's the DNA, so to speak, of the Schlage keying system for their classic keys, including Primus. How that drawing relates to pin geometry in particular is going to be the 100-degree angle of cut along with the .031 plateau. Your bottom pins need to be 100-degree and tipped on the bottom so that they will work properly in that .031 wide plateau that's there. Master pins, you know, what you're really concerned with is the crowning on top being most accurate. And of course, correct in their thickness and of course their diameter. They don't give us that's the other thing they don't give us. They don't tell us the diameter of the pin itself because not all manufacturers are the same. And when you get into security, restricted, patented key blanks that are under current patent protection, certainly you'll have stuff that gets outside of normal systems, like a universal kit like the one over my shoulder would help accommodate. I use that universal kit because I deal with lots of different manufacturers. I can pin Falcon or Schlage or Kwikset or Sargent, Yale, Corbin, Russwin, Dexter, Weiser, etc. But you're able to do so because that kit and those pins are homogenized. They're made to be compatible. They're made to be proper and work correctly without any trouble. And owning that keeps me from having to have a Schlage, Sargent, Yale, Corbin, Russwin, Falcon, Dexter, etc. pin kit individually, because pin kits are quite expensive. The client who's buying these pins deals in a Schlage exclusive environment in a moderate size facility. He never will encounter anything other than Schlage in his work environment. So what's best for that person who's not a locksmith but who possesses the skill and knowledge, experience, and tools to pin cylinders is best suited by buying original equipment like these number 2 Masters. The downside of original equipment is it's always going to be more expensive. The reason it's more expensive is, well, I don't know the reasons why it's more expensive per se, but I would also argue that having something that's engineered and manufactured to the exact requirements of its parent system is worth paying more money for. That I would certainly argue. And that is the logic why this client has a particular requirement of original equipment only, because he's never pinned with a universal kit and never had to get away from the 0 through 9 bottom pin concept, the 2 through 9 master pin concept. When you deal with a universal kit, you get into dealing in the dimensional properties of the pins and not the numbers. You know, a Kwikset number 5. What is that? I don't know. It's a number 5. You don't have to know what it is, in fact. You just have to know it's a 5. We don't need to know that a Schlage number 5 is 240 thousandths. I'm not sure. I don't remember what the Kwikset is. It might be 265 thousandths. I don't recall. But he's best served by having the original equipment because it does work smoothest. You will have complete success using a universal kit, but you will not have, and it's going to be arguably undetectable by almost all people that do it that are not professionals, but you will have a better working cylinder when you are using all original equipment, is just the bottom line. I find that the universal pins don't sit properly in the hole in the plug. They fill it, and they work perfectly, but they don't sit as beautifully or as elegantly as the original pin does. And that does matter, in my opinion. Certainly long term, I would argue. Finally, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Schlage products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. If you have any questions on the Schlage, this is their part number 34-202. This is a number 2 master pin by Schlage or any other Schlage product. Please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.